Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of the Timmy V Show, where we're going to talk about the 5 things that could break your real estate deal. And we're going to dive a little deeper into the insurance market, which in the state of Florida is everyone's favorite topic. Again, this is the Timmy V Show. My name is Tim Weigel with Watson Realty. Been a realtor for 10 years. I'm trying to give you the news that you could use. I hope everyone had a great Mother's Day weekend. I know in Florida, we're definitely heating up for sure. But today I thought some of the good things to talk about would be the 5 common deal breakers in real estate. And then some real estate or insurance tips that I know you're going to love. So, deal breakers, and they're not in any specific order, but these are the things that I could see derail transactions time and time again. First is personal emotions. As a buyer or even as a seller, this is an important transaction for you. This is one of your largest transactions. So there's always going to be emotions involved in it. Things that you might cherish, someone else might not cherish, and you might be insulted with their take on it if you hear it. So there's a lot of emotions in a real estate transaction, and just a little thing can cause it to be derailed. And it's an irrational reason for derailing because at the end of the day, your goal is to sell the home and move on. So I've once in the past almost had a transaction derailed over drapes because someone loved their drapes, and the other person was not a big fan of the drapes. So as you can see, things like that could happen and could cause a deal. In fact, I've even seen another one where crazy things happened in the transaction and the buyer got insulted and moved on because they did not like things that were happening in the transaction. Guess what? That buyer is still looking, and it's been a few years for that. Now, next on my list of 5, we got honesty with your lender. So a lot of times, it's kind of like picture yourself. If you hired an attorney to defend you, you got to be honest with the attorney so they can best defend you. Same concept to your lender, but a lot of times buyers will embellish things and they don't realize how it impacts. How much do you make a year? 50,000. Okay, they plugged in those numbers. Okay, you work. But then when you really look at it, you're really $47,270. And that just pushes you slightly below what you needed to qualify for your dream home. Even stuff of where you hide where you got income from. The more honest you are with your lender and take an open approach with them, they're going to prepare you so you don't have some of these headaches that happen all the time. Next is your inspection report. That could be scary. Here you are, you're purchasing a home. It's a resale home. You get your inspection report. It's about 80 pages. So you get that 80-page report, you start to freak out because there's a lot of issues on there. But guess what? You got to really decide what's issues going to harm you or risk to you and your family. And what are just little cosmetic things that's not a big deal and you can live with or fix as time goes on. The biggest things I always say to focus on the inspection report is major electrical issues, AC issues, roof issues, plumbing issues. If there's something with a septic tank, because you have a septic tank, that'd be an issue. Something comes up that's going to harm you with the foundation, that's going to be one that you should check out. But little things like tree limbs over the house, that's just housekeeping. That happens. But that's not anything that I would walk away from a transaction on. And these are things that, you talk with your realtor and you go through them. And just you got to go into it. You're buying a used home. There's going to be issues in used homes. But is it livable for you? And is it an expense that you're worried about in the future? Because you don't want to purchase a money pit, but you also don't want to walk away from a home that's actually in good condition for you either. Fourth on my list is listening to others' opinions. And there's nothing wrong with seeking advice, but that's all it is advice and opinions from others. Don't base everything on those opinions all the time. Because you don't know the scenario that fully happened in that situation and it might not fit with you. You got to compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. I remember there was a first time homebuyer class where I had a lender talking, and one line that he even used is, be cautious when you get opinions from your friends and family, which, don't get me wrong, definitely want to talk to them, hear them out, but don't keep that as a black and white answer either. And he says, why are you taking homeownership advice from Aunt Sally, who's never owned a home in 25 years? Things have changed since then. And it's the same thing. The new laws, new rules come into play all the time, and that's going to cause some issues if it doesn't fit in today's dynamic. And then lastly, homeowners insurance fears. Homeowners insurance, it's been scary in Florida for the last 20 years with homeowners insurance. So that's always challenging. But you need homeowners insurance, and you make sure you're protected. And there's no way ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the homeowners insurance, if you guess wrong, you could be paying more than you need to. It's always good to shop those around. And then flood insurance is another thing that's changing in Florida a little bit too. So, but without further ado, let me go ahead and bring on our guest for the day. Give me 1 second as she's in our waiting room. I think she's coming on. Oh, I think we're gonna have her. And believe it or not, her video actually works.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome, welcome. I hope the waiting room was all right. We'll call it our green room.
Yes, I felt like it was the timeout room.
Timeout room. Yeah, I probably should put my son on more timeouts. Uh, so this is our insurance guru, Monica, and you're with, what is it, AssuredPartners, right?
Yes, AssuredPartners Insurance.
So how do you like that insurance life?
Listen, I didn't wake up one day and say, man, me oh my, I'm dying to be an insurance agent. But let me tell you, it's definitely blossomed into something more than I've ever imagined. And now I live, eat, and breathe insurance, which is sort of scary, but hey.
Which, how long have you been doing insurance?
So 10 years, 10 years. I feel old just thinking of that.
Well, and just to point out, I've known her since she was in high school because
Hmm.
she used to work at the AT&T call center
Yes.
with me when we had our, what was it, the internship program or something?
Yeah. So you were my second job ever. So AT&T, well, not you, but AT&T was my second job. First was Starbucks in the airport. Shout out to my Starbucks folks over there in the airport. First job. And then second was oh look, yeah, you have the Starbucks cup. Don't ask me how to make a latte or anything because I couldn't remember left or right. But yeah, so then second job was AT&T, and I think that was my foundational job, kind of showed me the ropes of like what a real corporate company and behind the desk job really looked like.
Well, it's like an AT&T as an employee had its ups and downs,
Hmm.
regardless of whatever role you played in the call center, like I had. But the one thing I can say is any job I had after that, especially in the real estate industry, because you're more on your own,
Hmm.
I feel AT&T gave us the foundation to where we could succeed independently compared to others that didn't have that foundation coming in.
Yeah, definitely showed you kind of that, yeah, that foundation and what you need in order to kind of build yourself. And you played a really big role there. So you were like the boss of the boss. I remember coming in and I'm like, oh my gosh, Tim's there. It was like you and I think Rachel and a few others. And me being a 17-year-old coming into the call center, it was like, oh, Tim's walking in. Everybody better off your phones. You're on the computer.
I wish my son had that idea.
I love it.
So, but and going off another thing is, did you have a good Mother's Day at least?
I did. I did. I didn't do anything extremely exciting. My daughter took me to a crab boil right in Orlando with my own money. She's only 15, so it was nice. I paid for my own, but no, my daughter took me out to a nice crab boil. So, and we love crab boils. It's a thing on social media, so we're influenced by a lot of those things, but it was good.
Which, knowing that I've known you since you were like 17, it's just so weird to think you have a family, you've been in the insurance business now 10 years.
Yes.
Man, it makes me feel old.
I did in between that, was in banking for like 6 more. I was like an assistant branch manager at a local credit union for 6 additional years. So, man, time is flying. I
Yeah.
feel old. Thank you, Tim. I feel old because of you right now.
Well, don't worry, just know that you're always younger than me at least.
Oh
So
man.
tell me, insurance, what type of changes and things do you see happening?
Oh man. Well, we've really been through the thick of it over these last few years with insurance premiums going up, a lot of insurance companies canceling homeowners. What else? All the stipulations on roofs and all the 4 points within a property. So what I see right now in the insurance market, we don't see much is going to change as far as the price of insurance. Okay. If anything, it's still going to continue to rise. But there is some great news. We have 8 new insurance companies that have entered into the state of Florida. So kind of to backtrack, 2022, we lost 7 insurance companies. They went insolvent or they left the state for how high risk Florida insurance is. So we lost 7. We're getting 8 back now this year. So that's huge when it comes to eligibility, roof ages, and all of those things. We have more competitors out there, but does not mean that rates are going down. I just have to emphasize that.
Wishful thinking. What about I know since Irma, I think it was, we've had some interesting flood stuff.
Oh yes. So Ian, I know it's
Is
hard
it
to keep up here
is
in
it
Florida.
Ian? I don't remember. It was 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh. So Hurricane Ian came and left his mark. And as a native Floridian, I think I've been here since I was 8 or 9. So I don't know if I can say native, but been here long enough. I've seen a hurricane or two. But Ian really left a lasting impression. So flood rates and flood zonings are drastically changing this year. I actually had a realtor that was mid-transaction with the lender for their buyer, and the home got moved into a flood zone mid-transaction. So they went from an X zone, low rate zone to an AE. And that was a huge monkey wrench in the transaction. So right now, flood rates are going to continue to rise as they've been, and flood zones are changing through FEMA every single day. So what you may have not been in a flood zone prior, you may be moved into a flood zone now, because Ian flooded in places that were like one of the lowest risk, 1% or less chance of flooding, and we saw 4 feet of water in some of the neighborhoods in just central Orlando area. It's pretty bad. Did you go downtown? Did you see?
I didn't go downtown, but I did go over by Dean Road,
Mm-hmm.
which was all underwater because of the econ.
Yes. Or what is it, St. John's River? The river flooded so bad. The homeowners that live on the river, they couldn't get into their homes like for weeks after Ian. So it was pretty intense, but definitely an eye opener for Florida as far as flood zones go.
Yeah. So based off what you're saying, though, at least when it comes down to insurance, it's at least stabilizing a little more.
It is. It definitely is. Knock on wood that this actually June 1st starts hurricane season. So if we can get past another hurricane season without a major storm, that will be great for us. But it is stabilizing. So we've been through the thick of it. I think right now with insurance, it sort of is what it is. Like we were kind of sticker shock in the beginning, right? If you put the news on, you would see every homeowner, every news channel had a homeowner complaining that their insurance rates have gone up, that they're being canceled by their insurance company. And so I think now in Florida, as a consumer and as a homeowner, we kind of understand the market at this point. We know that it's not the best. The sticker shock is gone, and we're sort of settling into our roots of, okay, prices have gone up on insurance. It's going to stay that way. And, we just continue to maneuver through whatever challenges we face as they come.
Yeah. Um, out of the insurance companies out there, is there any preferred insurance companies that you like? Because I know you guys sell to many, right?
Yes. Oh, that's like picking a favorite child. But no, I can definitely say, well, we have 25 companies, so I guess I have a big, a big amount to choose from. But right now, Frontline is a really great company that we work with. Security First, Tower Hill. A lot of these prime insurance companies, like those are ones that if you get a quote through them, their ratings are great, and you probably want to stay with them if you have them as your insurance company, because they're not one that we foresee going out of business anytime soon. So those are kind of my top three: Frontline, Security First, Tower Hill. I
Which
know I'm
that's the
missing.
funny thing, because I think many people don't understand this part of insurance. They just look at it as like homeowners insurance, I have to get it because my lender said so.
Hmm.
Uh, but when you guys sign up for insurance and have people that you represent, you
Hmm.
look into what's their rating, what's the chances that they'll go under out of business and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I won't dive too deep, but like a majority of the homeowners in Florida or property owners have citizens insurance, which that's the state-run insurance company. And so um a lot of changes are happening with citizens insurance, and a lot of, again, when I say a majority of property owners have citizens here in Florida, it's huge. And so we're trying to you have to be more savvy when you're shopping for insurance or you're buying a house, because if you have just a small difference between a citizen's insurance quote and maybe that Tower Hill or Frontline company, I would rather pay $200 or $300 more for a more preferred company than going with maybe the state-run insurance company. And that's where we're trying to educate our realtors and our, new home buyers on, listen, it's not always price, it's also the quality of the company. That's huge.
Yeah. Which actually my biggest fear, and I'm not in insurance, so you tell me if I'm wrong. My biggest fear with citizens like 4 years ago, not too bad. It is backed by the state, so you know it's not going to go under anytime soon.
Hmm.
But now, because so many insurance companies are pulling out, they're having to take on more of a burden of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And today, that's not a big deal. But if we get a Ian and everyone's a citizen, that could overwhelm their systems to where you're going to have issues getting your payouts and getting dealt with.
Yeah. So they're doing a depopulation right now, which is doing exactly that. So the companies that are already insuring in Florida, they're taking citizens, policyholders, and they're depopulating and moving them to private insurance companies. So with the 8 coming in, that'll help alleviate all of the risk that citizens has right now. So they'll just start transferring those policies over to these new companies or existing companies. So that's already under the works. So gosh forbid hurricane season comes, a hurricane hits, citizens won't be inundated with, the amount of claims, because they're trying to push out the business elsewhere so that it's spread throughout the state.
Yeah. Now, for insurance, I mean, the biggest thing that I know people always care about is roof, plumbing, AC, and electrical. And I want to dive a little deep on that. So for roof, what's the typical age that people like to see on the roof?
So roofs, 25 companies, some right now won't take a roof over 10 years old. And many won't take over 15. But what we're looking at on the 4-point inspection is a little section that says how many years of life is left on the roof. And I'm
Okay.
sorry if you hear the background noise, that is a phone over there. It'll stop in a second. So 5 years of life left is very important, because that will tell us whether that roof is high risk or not. So you could have an 18-year-old roof with 5 years or more life left, and we can find, a policy to satisfy that.
Okay. And then with plumbing, what do you guys specifically look for on the 4 point?
Polybutylene plumbing. Don't make me go and get my show and tell for you, Tim, because polybutylene plumbing is the biggest risk factor right now. It is a high claim plumbing. It's a gray color. And for plumbing, if you have polybutylene plumbing, you will most likely know. If you're not sure, look under your sink. You'll find it behind the water heater or under your kitchen sink. But that's a huge issue that not even Citizens Insurance will take.
Yeah,
And
I
then
mean,
galvanized, a little galvanized too, but
little
we're,
galvanized.
yeah.
Yeah, many people out there, I don't even think realize that the reason poly is such an issue is there was a big lawsuit on that in the
Mhm.
90s.
Yep. Big lawsuit, and they were supposed to have it changed out, most of the properties that had it, but many don't. Like the Longwood area has still a huge like slab of poly throughout that area. It comes like major areas is what I'm trying to say. So we still see it. It's still very much a thing, and the likelihood of having water damage is huge. So I always say, just if you can fit that into the deal to get a replumb, I would probably do that over. I mean, roof and plumbing to me are two that I would look at primarily.
Yeah. What about with the AC? What do you guys look for?
AC 20 years on the AC unit. We're pretty lenient on that. I mean, if it's a 22, 23-year-old AC unit, it's not that big of a deal. I think what we're seeing right now are water heaters. Water heaters, if they're inside of your living area, it is about 14 or 15 years with some companies. And then if it's in the garage outside of the heating area, it's 20 years. And they're pretty strict on that. I think between water heater and electrical panels, we're seeing those two things as the lower expense items that we like to see kind of change out before closing.
What with the electrical panel?
Oh my gosh, electrical panels, there's like 5 of them. Let's see. This is like a quiz for myself. So the manufacturers of they're Federal Pacific, Challenger, Zinsco, Sylvania, and Bulldog Pushmatic. Oh, I passed the test. Those 5 manufacturers, they're all brothers and sisters. They have a high risk of fire hazards. So for those, you just want to get them swapped out before closing because most companies just don't want to take. I mean, we have a few that will, but it's such a high risk for fire that we just ask to be changed out before closing.
That's on the box in the garage.
Yep. On the boxes, usually if your house has 2 boxes, breaker boxes, you want to get them both changed out. And sometimes we forget about that extra one that might be outside of the home. And you'll see if you open up your electrical box, it's on houses that are like in the 70s up to the 90s. So if you open up your electrical box and you see the breakers are like red or they look like an Easter basket of colors, then most likely it's one of those brands of panels. So you can kind of reference if you can't see on the door who the manufacturer is. Because we know houses in the 70s, sometimes it's worn down and peeling. So
Yeah, yeah. So but insurance companies are wanting the outside box taken care of too.
both,
I've
yes.
seen some cases where they don't.
It's all or nothing with insurance. If you have 2 panels and one is Federal Pacific and the other is like a GE, they'll still rate the whole house as Federal Pacific. Same for poly. We'll see one bathroom left with poly plumbing and the rest of the house was replumbed. Don't ask me how that happens. And we rate the whole house as poly. So it's all or nothing when it comes to insurance, even if it's just a 5% of risk or the hazard is just 5% within the home, we're still rated as 100%.
Okay. It's definitely good to know. Now, and I don't know if most insurance companies do this anymore, but I've seen some cases where, like, for example, with the electrical box, if it's a bad one, you could still close with it as long as it's get addressed within the first 30 days. Are you guys?
Um, Yeah, we're not seeing as much of that. If we do move forward with like an electrical or plumbing issue, we'll insure it with that hazard. So you won't have the best policy up front, and then we will address it after it's been repaired. We can do exceptions on roofs. So if you have a roof contract before closing, then we can provide you an insurance policy as if the house had a brand new roof, and we'll give you about 30 to 60 days after closing. But plumbing, electrical, we steered away from that a few years ago where we're not making exceptions up front. We usually just we find an eligible policy with the issues up front, and then we can change you out to a new company or make updates to your policy after it's been remediated.
Definitely a lot of good information. Thank you so much.
We could be here for hours. This is my jam. I am all things insurance. I live, breathe, eat it, think of it all the time. It's almost sickening, but I'm definitely here if you need, have any questions or need more insight.
Well, definitely thank you. And one thing I could tell for any future homeowners or even sellers out there is I wouldn't scoff at any of these issues. At the end of the day, your realtor, whether you're on the buy side or the list side, will negotiate and find a way through it. A lot of these issues, I see them all the time, and there's always creative ways to address them.
Yes.
So it's just you got to ask the right question and figure out how do we get to the finish line, not let me give up and move on.
Yeah. I say if you're a listing agent, do your own 4-point inspection. I have a checklist I can definitely share with you, Tim. It's like a pre-insurance checklist, but do your due diligence ahead of time. Don't list a house if there's a rusty water heater or you saw that it's a patchy roof. And maybe insurance might not work with that. So maybe, look at the house if it's 20 years or older and then call your insurance agent and have them run a quote for you before you list it to make sure it's insurable, because we see these issues come up and you go from 21-day closing now to 40 or whatever extends to, because there's a lot of back and forth. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, definitely. Well, thank
Thank
you. You've been great on here today.
Thank you,
We
Tim.
appreciate your time.
No
And for
problem.
everyone out there, tune in, share it. See you next Friday. And I hope you picked up something. And please leave a comment, ask us questions, because we'll get you some answers if we didn't cover it already today. So thank you
Awesome.
all. I'll see you all later.
Bye.